First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that if she doesn't want me in the delivery room, she can find someone else to drive her to the hospital? I can add more information if people need or want it, but I'll try to only include what I think is relevant. My wife is pregnant and has told me that she wants her sister in the delivery room. She is only allowed one person, so this means I'm out and won't be with her when she gives birth to our baby. It would be an understatement to say that I was disappointed, crushed, hurt, etc. when she told me this is what she was thinking. I had been excited about being there with her and experiencing that moment ever since she told me she was pregnant. Really, even since we started trying to get pregnant. I just always assumed she would want me there. Note the distinction here between me expecting to be there versus expecting her to want me there. I am pointing this out because what's worse than the disappointment is her rejecting me and basically telling me that she feels like someone else could give her better support while giving birth. That's really made me feel like a piece of crap and worthless husband and father. I've tried not to take it to heart or personally, but I don't know how else to take that kind of rejection. It doesn't help that she's really given no reason for why she feels like her sister would do a better job of supporting her. I know that her sister has had kids herself, but when I asked my wife if that was part of it, she said not really. I then asked her if I had done something wrong or failed in some way or if she was upset with me, and she said it wasn't anything I'd done, and she wasn't trying to punish me. She just felt like it would be better to have her sister there. I've asked for clarifications, and that's as specific as she gets. It doesn't seem like she has a real list of reasons why her sister was chosen. It's just a feeling. Either that or she is lying to me and won't give me the real reason. I had hoped she'd change her mind, but she's now confirmed this is how it will be. All of the things I've written about led me to tell her that if she really feels that way, then I think it'd be better if her sister or someone else drove her to the hospital. Otherwise, I'm just her taxi driver. Once she realized that I was serious, she lost it and told me I was acting like a child and pouting. I can accept that it's her choice, but if she doesn't want my support in the delivery room, then why would she want it on the way to the hospital or at any other time? That's illogical, so there's no point in me doing that either. She decided to go stay with her family for a few days, and since she has, I am being constantly bombarded by both sides of the family and friends of ours telling me to let this go and stop being an a-hole. I know they are trying to help, but I don't think they understand the situation and just want it resolved so they can all feel better. Just looking to confirm if I am as bad as they think I am. Now for the top comments. You're not an a-hole for wanting to be there the moment your child is born. You are a huge a-hole for punishing her by saying she can find her own ride to the hospital and that you'll withhold other support on the day. Before you downvote me, read what he said again. Things are obviously different because it's a frigging pandemic. Now, a patient only goes one support person. Maybe your wife has good reasons for wanting her sister there. Maybe she feels she'll get better support from someone who listens to what she, the woman in labor, wants. Someone who won't be pissy and petty if things don't go their way. It's only very recently in history that fathers were even allowed in the delivery room, no matter what they wanted. You can do your best to explain why you feel you have the right to be there, and more importantly, that you'll be the right person to support your wife. But if you carry out your threats to make her find her own way to the hospital and sulk because you're not in the room, then you will most definitely be proving her point, and also you're the a-hole. In my opinion, the fact that he's punishing her by saying she won't drive her to the hospital while she's in labor shows exactly why she doesn't want him in there. You're the a-hole, by the way. That's exactly my point. A lot of commenters here are focusing on how he should be in the room. It's a magical moment. It's his baby too, etc. Very few are noticing his crappy response. Well then, clearly you don't need my support, so find your own way to the hospital. I can't believe people aren't picking up on that and are calling the wife immature. The way to support a woman in labor is by asking what she wants and doing your best to make it happen, not by being a pissy baby before the actual baby shows up, in my humble opinion. I would be deeply and forgivably hurt if I were in his shoes. Sometimes we don't give the best reactions to that type of hurt. But you are not the one pushing a baby out of your birth canal. The husband's desire to be there is 100% understandable. It just doesn't exactly trump her desire. Women's body doing the work, not men's. Women die in childbirth, not men. To men, it is a magical moment. To women, it is a magical moment, but also scary and or painful and or all kinds of things. So why can't you let her make that decision after carefully explaining why you want to be there and how you feel? You're the a-hole. Women still die giving birth. Regularly. This is a dangerous task. She decided who she wants there. Perhaps because she thinks you'll be more focused on your feelings than her health. Given your response to her choice, I can see why she'd feel that way. You might find yourself divorced if you keep this up. I think she already said why she didn't want him in the delivery room, and he decided it's not good enough reason. Edit. I appreciate the comments, even the ones that were harsh. But as it turns out, this post is moot. After talking with some of you last night, I reached out to my wife this morning about the state of things in our relationship. Mostly, I wanted to know if she was planning to come home anytime soon. She said that she wasn't, as I had suspected. She confirmed what I'd guess, which is that she has no plans to come back anytime soon, so someone in her family will be driving her anyway. I'm not really upset by that. I still feel it's for the best, and I think she does too. We'll see what happens after the baby is born, but I don't think it's likely we'll stay together. And given our differences and differing views on marriage, that may be for the best anyway. I feel like our relationship has run its course and we're not a good fit for each other. I had already contacted a divorce attorney just to discuss a possible separation and things I might need to do to prepare for divorce. So I'll go ahead and start making plans assuming we're divorcing. I probably will end up doing a paternity test so I can confirm the baby is actually mine, since some of you are saying you don't believe it is. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving the hospital while my wife was in labor? So, my wife sometimes likes to choose her mom over me when her mom gets all upset. I guess she doesn't like to see her mom sad, even though you can tell she is faking it. Like when we were going to go on a relaxing date, she canceled it because her mom wanted to go to the mall with our firstborn. And when my wife said she had plans, her mom sobbed crocodile tears, and she went and said we can do the date later. Well, we didn't go on that date till 2 months later, because I didn't have days to take off when she was off. This is one example. So a few days ago, my wife was going to go into labor with our second, and she had promised I can be in the room until my mother-in-law told her a whole sub-story about how she can wait outside and is too impatient, and my wife caved in. And when I took her to the hospital, I was ordered to stay outside with our son. Now at this point, I felt very upset and angry, so I called my sister and asked if me and my son could stay over for a day, and she said yes. So I left with my son, went to the house, got some clothes and left. I texted my wife that I'm staying over with my sister with my son and that we can talk after she feels better. After that, I talked to my sister about it while my son was hanging out with his cousin, and then my wife texted me saying what was going on. So I told her about how I feel upset that she keeps choosing her mom over me, and that when she feels better, we can talk about it further. She understood, and so for the past 2 days when I'm not at the house, my mother-in-law is there to help, and when I'm there, I just do all the normal stuff and some housework. I was starting to wonder if I am an A, because my wife looks upset and I just feel bad. Sorry if this was more of a rant or doesn't make sense. I'm just not in the right state of mind. Edit. A lot of people ask for an edit, so here it is. 1. No, I was not in the waiting room. I was outside in the car with my 4-year-old son. 2. We had discussed that I would be in the room for a while, even right before we went to the hospital. I had only found out I wasn't allowed in after the doctors asked who my wife wanted, and mother-in-law pleaded to be in, and my wife chose her. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It's not your mother-in-law's kid, it's yours. She's acting like an entitled psycho grandma, and it's embarrassing. You missed the birth of your second child, because your mother-in-law guilt trips your wife like it's going out of style. I hope you and your wife work through this. Yeah, I would suggest some boundaries and some couples counseling ASAP, OP. This is only going to get worse as your wife goes through the postpartum phase. I would not delay. Good luck. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. But this is a weird family dynamic, it seems. You just missed the birth of your child, and you guys are tiptoeing around it. I would be livid if I was you. I just don't want to blow up at my wife, especially because she is still recovering. Everyone sucks here. Your mother-in-law sucks for being manipulative and having no boundaries. Your wife sucks for kicking you out of the labor and delivery room. But you suck more for taking your valid stand at the worst possible time. Your wife never should have chosen her mother over you, especially not then. But your ideal course of action was call sister, ask her to come get your son, you stay in the hospital until your next child is born, help your wife during her recovery, get home, and then talk to your wife about how completely unacceptable this has all been. You know, there is this virus COVID. Ever heard of it? You can't just stay in the hospital waiting right now. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole, 27 female, for telling my sister, 19 female, that she needs to move out because we want to convert her room into a nursery after our baby is born? My sister has been living in our condo for the last 2 years since it is located in the city and is only a 10-minute drive from her campus. My in-laws gifted us the condo when we got married and the mortgage is all paid off, so we never charge any rent. It only has 3 bedrooms and we use one for our home office, one for our bedroom, and let my sister stay in the third one. My husband and I decided that we were finally in a good enough financial situation this year to have a baby, and let my sister know that she needed to move out before the baby was born. We want to convert her room into the nursery. However, she's been complaining to everyone that we are kicking her out in the middle of a pandemic and has been asking us to convert the home office into the nursery so that she can keep her room. I do feel bad for her since she's had to take out a ton of loans to cover her college tuition already, and the rent prices in New York are insane. But we need our home office since we both work from home and feel like we have to do what is best for our baby first. Am I the a-hole? Edit. My husband and I have been waiting to have kids for years, so waiting another 2 years for her to finish college is not an option for us. We both work from home and need separate rooms when we work, as we do have a lot of meetings during the day. We never promised my sister that she could stay with us all 4 years of her college. But since we had the space and she asked, we were fine with her staying. Starting a family is the most important thing to us right now, and I have to put my husband in our family plans before my sister. I will definitely be helping my sister with her apartment hunting though. Not the a-hole. You're not even pregnant yet, so hardly kicking her out. You've given her plenty of time to get organized, save up to move, etc. However, if the pandemic is still very serious at the time the baby is expected, and she hasn't been able to find anywhere, it would be good if you let her stay until things clear up and she can move safely. Especially because most people find it easier to have a baby in a bassinet next to their bed for the first few months, just because of sheer exhaustion. This is true, but the sheer amount of other crap you have on hand really makes it easier to have a room dedicated for the clothes, blankets, future toys, /clothes, extra diapers, /wipes, and the million things you bought to prepare for the first year. No a-holes here / you're the a-hole. It seems like you and your sister are in wildly different financial situations. She's underwater in debt while in school in an expensive city. Your in-laws had a financial ability to gift you a home, and your mortgage is paid off while you both work full-time. Now, your sister's financial situation is not technically your responsibility. She is technically an adult, if only 19. But especially with the pandemic situation, I can very much see why she feels overwhelmed and put out by you and your husband, especially as during the pandemic, many people are working from home in studios or with no home offices. By many standards, a full home office is a luxury, and she probably feels upset that you're unwilling to make some adjustments for her. But like I said, none of this is technically your responsibility. You have the right to use your home as you see fit and have a child whenever you like. So, a few things. 1. Did your sister assume she was welcome for all of college? If so, I can very much understand why she feels kicked out before she thought she would be. 2. If you conclude she must move out, help her apartment hunt. It's overwhelming anywhere, but especially in the city. Some guidance there would likely make her feel much more at ease. 3. If possible, can you gift or loan her money for a deposit and moving costs so she doesn't have to take out high-interest loans? Sure, she can take out more school loans or get a job on top of school to pay for rent. But there are so many upfront costs to moving, and she clearly can't afford it. Be aware that as a young person with limited credit history and a part-time job, she will likely not be approved for a huge number of apartments. 4. Like I said, you have zero responsibility to house her and you have already been generous. But for a moment, I would try to put yourself in her shoes. You and your husband really have it made and are quite lucky, and life is really hard for a lot of people right now. Many people are leaning on family and friends more than ever for help. 5. Your real sister, who is in a really tough spot, likely feels like you are prioritizing a non-existent baby over her. It is your apartment, but it is worth noting that having 3 bedrooms in the city is quite a luxury. You could be damaging your relationship and ensuring your sister gets much further into debt by having her move out mid-pandemic. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my dad his decision to move on fast is the reason we feel the way we do? Hi guys. Me, 15 female, and my brother, 17 male, lost our mom 8 years ago. Our dad remarried 6 months after her death. We both found it really hard to come to terms with, and I'll admit we have been very cold and sometimes mean because of it. Our dad just moved on, and he expected us to move on after 6 months. It's been a pretty crappy few years for us. And earlier this year, our dad decided we all needed family therapy, and so we ended up there. And my brother doesn't want to talk. He sits and says nothing the whole time. But the therapist a few weeks ago, back in early October, asked me if I was willing to talk, and so I did. I said my brother and I were angry our dad remarried after 6 months. That he and his wife thought 6 months was enough for us to come to terms with our mom's loss, and be ready for someone new living with us and trying to parent us. I said the fact they never saw anything wrong with it made us dislike them both, and that the reason neither of us bonded with the new members of our family was we were still really angry and hurt about it. And no matter how long has since passed, it doesn't erase what happened. I also said it was insulting to us that they thought she would be our new mom, and that we would love her the same, especially after the way they made everything happen when they moved so fast. My dad asked if I loved my stepmom now, and I said no. My brother didn't answer the question. He then asked why we were still holding on to it after so long. I told him because he might have needed to move fast for him, but he did so at our expense, and that was not something we could just forget about or get over like it didn't matter. Things have been tensed since. My brother is grounded for not opening up, and I was grounded for being rude. The therapist knows all this and has asked if we wanted to do individual sessions, but our dad's wife said no. Then my dad said we're doing it as a family so we can be a family. Am I the a-hole? Just adding some notes here because some things were asked multiple times. My mom's death was sudden, car accident. I am pretty sure there was no affair, but I can't say for sure. We believe they met at work after my mom died. My dad went back a week after she died, and a couple of days after that, he mentioned a new co-worker. We found them in bed together a month after my mom died. We think it was a one-night stand. That then became more because a month later, she was introduced to us as his girlfriend, and she was unemployed, and they mentioned just before that the new co-worker left. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This is made especially clear by the fact that you got grounded for what you said in therapy. Yeah, why on earth would a brother ever open up if he knows he can get in trouble for expressing himself? This is extremely damaging. Worst Dad of the Year award for real. Well, the brother didn't open up and still got grounded. So the only option is to lie, I guess? What a terrible father. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but wow, your dad is. 6 months is crazy fast, and therapy should be a safe space. The fact that you're grounded for being rude and your brother's grounded for not opening up speaks volumes. I'm sorry you're going through this. So OP gets in trouble for talking about her feelings, and her brother gets in trouble for not talking about his feelings. It's like, no matter what, these kids lose. Not the a-hole, but the dad sure is. Not the a-hole. Your father was and is very selfish. He may have been ready to move on after 6 months, less given that he presumably dated this woman before marrying her, but he had no possible right to demand that you and your brother process your grief at his convenience. Now he's punishing you because you're not playing into his happy family fantasy. It wouldn't be surprising if he is one of those who piously tells himself that he remarried for the kids, not for self-gratification, and resents that you and your brother aren't playing along. Your stepmother is a fool if she thinks that love can be commanded, and nothing in your post suggests that she is worthy of your love. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for blaming my dad for bringing my stepbrother into my life? My wife had an affair with him. My wife had an affair with my stepbrother. It was possibly the single most devastating thing I've been through. My marriage is over and everything is wrapped up money-wise. But I have a lot of anger and resentment at my dad for even bringing the piece of crap that is my stepbrother into my life. He was always a negative presence in our family, and I've complained to my dad numerous times as how our stepbrother was awful to my sister and myself. But my dad turned a blind eye because he was desperate to keep the sham of a family together. My dad has begged for forgiveness, but I no longer talk to him. My sister doesn't talk to him as well, as an act of solidarity. I also told my granddad that I can no longer work in his company if my dad and stepbrother work there. I told him I was quitting. My granddad ended up firing my dad and stepbrother instead, and he is cutting my dad out of his will because he saw how hurt I was by everything. He doesn't want my stepbrother to benefit from him in any way. My dad reached out recently to say he is separating from his wife, so there will be zero link to my stepbrother, and if I would be open to talking to him. I said he was 15 years too late and stopped responding. Am I the a-hole for blaming my dad for playing a part in this? You're the a-hole. This has nothing to do with your dad bringing him into your life. This has to do with your ex-wife's commitment issues. Your stepbrother and ex-wife are the a-hole. The fact it took granddad cutting the dad out of his will just goes to show he never cared about his kids. He was with stepmother for all this time, but as soon as he's about to lose money, he breaks it off? Please, that man is as selfish as they get. Not the a-hole. Your granddad is a legend. Make sure you buy him a gift and spend some quality time with the man. Seriously, nice that you have someone like him in your life. This right here. You've got family that really cares about you and isn't afraid to stand by you. Spend your time fostering those relationships. They're the ones that will matter in the long run. You're the a-hole. Your wife, an autonomous adult, cheated on you with your stepbrother, another autonomous adult. Your father did not facilitate this simply by your stepbrother being around because of him. If he works with you for your grandfather, that is situational. Your father did not sweep your stepbrother into your life to steal your wife. You are being needlessly cruel to your parents because your unrelated brother screwed your wife. You are being cruel to your own parent because your wife screwed your stepbrother. You are not being cruel to your dad because your dad did something wrong. You literally turned his own parents against him to fuel your petty rage. You are so far from not being the a-hole that I'm surprised you aren't being studied by proctologists for being made entirely out of an a-hole. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying that my daughter inherits my house no matter what? I'm a single mom in my 50s with one daughter. I got very lucky in that I bought a home in the Bay Area nearly 30 years ago for around $230,000 before the tech boom, and now the house is worth about $1 million. I have a 23-year-old daughter, Camilla, who grew up in that house, and she moved out last year to go live with her boyfriend. I've never explicitly told my daughter the house will be yours, nor has she asked anything about it, but just sort of common sense. That's my daughter. Who else would I give it to? One important note. There are 2 homes in the neighborhood that are owned by lower middle class people, me and the neighbor who's been here as long as I have. Otherwise, our neighbors are engineers and software developers. The Bay Area is simply unaffordable if you're not in tech. My daughter is a hairstylist. My fiancé Steven and I have been together for 2 years. He has 2 young children, elementary school. He has joint custody of who I adore, and I'm excited to help raise them. Steven and I don't have a ton in the bank, so a prenup seemed silly if it weren't for the house. I told him that I'm ready to combine finances and plan long-term with him, but I wanted a prenup agreement just for the house. It's a non-negotiable for me that my daughter inherits the house. He wasn't happy with this. He said that $1 million split 3 ways is enough for all 3 kids to get a head start in life. I disagree. I paid 80% of the mortgage myself and Camilla is my only child. She can have her dream life, working as a hairstylist, living in the Bay Area, with this house but will be unhappy, have to move out to a less desirable area if it's split. I spoke to Camilla about this and she agrees that she should get the house and said she always planned on inheriting it, just like I always planned on giving it to her. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You have been with this man 2 years and he is demanding that his kids receive an equal share of the home you paid for and raised your daughter in decades before he even existed for you? That's absurd. If you're going to marry this man and merge finances with him, you need to speak to an attorney first and make sure your wishes for your home will be followed in the event that anything should happen. But first, you should ask yourself, if you have to go to great lengths to protect your child from his greed and entitlement, if marriage and merging finances is something you really want to do with this person. You have been with this man 2 years and he is demanding that his kids receive an equal share of the home you paid for and raised your daughter in decades before he even existed for you? Not even an equal share. He wants the majority of the OP's primary asset, 66%, to go to his children, while the OP's child gets 1/3, despite the OP being the one who bought the house. He also didn't respect the OP, saying this is non-negotiable. OP, this is deal-breaker territory. If your fiancé won't sign the prenup, downgrade him to a friends with benefits. He's not respecting your asset and your agency. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. The house was purchased 30 years ago, long before you met Steven, and it is your separate property. I would not add him to your house deed. I'm not a lawyer, but I certainly would consult an attorney versed in estate law. I have my eyebrows raised that a fiancé of 2 years thinks his 2 children should get an equal share of your house that is your separate property, and that you have paid a mortgage on for nearly 30 years. Please protect yourself and contact an attorney. The entitlement, especially because the kids have a mother and a father that's not the OP. I have lived in Bay Area. 1/3 of that house will not go far for giving Camilla the future you and she want her to have. You are passing your good fortune and hard work on to your daughter. Makes perfect sense to me. Between Steven and his ex, they have the right and responsibility to provide for their 2 children as best they can. I agree, $300,000 is just a down payment. How in the world can she, or anyone, afford a $3,000 a month mortgage payment that would come with a new house? Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not punishing my stepson for what he said to my daughter? I, 45 male, and my ex split 8 years ago. I met my current wife during our divorce and married her pretty quickly after it was finalized. I now live with my wife, 41 female, and stepson, 16 male, and while my ex offered 50-50 custody of our daughter, 15 female, I felt it better if she can stay with her mother so I could adjust to life with my new wife and stepson. So, she came every other weekend before the pandemic. She's been with her mom since March. Here's where the issue comes in. My stepson feels threatened by my daughter when she's here. I'm the only father figure he's ever had and he doesn't like sharing my attention, so he's often quite rude/mean to her. We normally just assure her it's because he's insecure. My stepson came home yesterday cheerfully saying that my daughter said she'd never come here again. I called my daughter to ask why she'd say that. According to her, my stepson has been saying since school resumed that I picked him over her and that I hated her coming to visit and how everyone was so happy these months she didn't visit. No one wanted her there and she needed to just stay away from us. He denied it, of course, but my daughter's friend filmed him at some point, gotta love the age of smartphones, and sent it to me. When confronted, he got watery-eyed and said he was just afraid of losing me. I told my daughter that I obviously didn't feel that way, and he just felt threatened by her presence. She asked if I was going to actually do something about his behavior this time, or if I was just going to brush it under the rug like I always did. I told her I didn't brush anything under the rug, but I wasn't going to punish him for being insecure about losing his father figure. She told me she was tired of his daddy issues being an excuse to treat her like crap, and since I wouldn't stand up for her, she wouldn't be visiting again. I tried to talk to my ex about it, but she said I picked him over her repeatedly and never stood up for her when he treated her poorly. So I don't get to play the victim now that she's fed up with it. I think they're both being oversensitive here, and my daughter needs to get over it and visit again. But my brother said I let my stepson boost my ego and failed my daughter by not standing up for her. My nephew suggested a post here. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. You did pick your new family over her, and then repeatedly leave her needs and emotions out of the equation. Him turning down 50-50 custody to weekend visits so he could adjust to life with his new wife and stepson really said it all. Yep, you're the a-hole. How do you not see this? Do you prefer stepson because he's a boy? It sounds like you are picking him first again and again. You even rejected 50% custody of your own kid. How is this a mystery to you? Opie likes feeling like a hero for playing such a large role in stepson's life. Daughter is considered old news. You're the a-hole. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you with the next one. Stay safe. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to take in my father's daughter? My father cheated on my mother and got another woman pregnant. Mom immediately filed for divorce. He went on to marry the other woman. My dad didn't have much custody of me when I was little. He was nice and tried really hard, but my mom was my primary custodian and there was nothing that I wouldn't do for her. I guess the fact that he always disrespects my mom, acts like she is the reason he cheated, just made me hate him. My mother also strictly told my father that I am not to have any contact with his wife/child. This happened when I was 5. I am now 20. Right now, I don't have any family except for my father, with whom I have got all contact with. He didn't come to my mom's funeral, and that was the last straw for me. Few months ago, my father's daughter, Tracy, contacted me. Turns out that she has lost both her parents to the pandemic. She was about to go into foster care and begged me to help her. I told her very politely that I do not want to have any contact with her, and that she cannot possibly expect me to take care of her when I am just a broke college student. She told me that she had plans and she would work, and all I have to do is not let her go into foster home. She told me that she will take care of herself. She asked me to help her as I am her sister. As I mentioned, I have no clue about this person. I don't even know if what she was suggesting was legally possible. In the end, I told her that I wasn't in any position to help her, and I don't know her. I told her that while we do have the same father, I don't consider him to be my father, and I don't consider her to be my sister. I wished her luck, but also firmly told her that I do not wish to have any contact with her. After that, I ignored any attempt she made to contact me. She has recently started trying to contact me again. I had some glimpse at the messages and she alternates between calling me monster/heartless to how awful her foster home is. I haven't responded. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. No a-holes here. She's a scared 14 to 15-year-old in foster care, and you're the only option she can see out of it. It sucks, but you aren't wrong. You don't have to have a relationship with her, and it's not like you were in any position to take care of her. It's a sucky situation, but it's probably best if you ask her to stop messaging you, and if she doesn't, block her. I understand she's going through a lot, but it doesn't give her the right to take it out on you, a stranger. Kid probably has a whole fantasy relationship with Opie in her head. I know I did about my much older brothers, that they would rescue me from our father, that they loved me, that one day I'd go live with them. Opie is in no position to parent this kid, but it's a bitter dose of truth for kids, sis. No a-holes here. No a-holes here, but I'm going to tell you something you definitely don't want to hear. Your dad cheated on your mom, and that was a jerk move on his part. Even stupider that he would try and blame it on her. Your mom messed up too, though. You say you had little contact with your father, and then say that your mom forbade any contact to his wife and other child? She knew that meant she was limiting contact between you and him. That literally meant you couldn't have a room in their home, no holidays together, etc. She alienated your father. And this girl is your sister, whether you want to recognize it or not. She didn't cheat on your mom. Your dad did. I'm not saying you should take her in, because not doing so is your choice and your right. I do think it's time to start critically thinking about why you worship one parent and denounce the other. Your mom may have been great, but she wasn't perfect, and it's unhealthy to idolize someone so unquestionably. Especially since it occurred when Opie was 5, I get some serious parental alienation vibes from the mom. Also, that Opie somehow thinks her dad should have come to her mom's funeral. Most people don't go to their ex's funeral, especially if that person hated them. Could dad have supported Opie in other ways? Maybe, but given the circumstances, it's difficult. Dad is the estranged parent. Mom hated dad. I've been there, and there was nothing my dad could have done to help. No a-holes here. You can't afford to take care of a virtual stranger. She sounds like a scared kid. Edit to add. Though, if her parents are dead, so is your father? Really cut him off hard, didn't you? Yes, I didn't even know that he passed away until she called. Now for the second story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to adopt my sister's kid? My husband and I already have 3 kids. 2 are adopted. 1 is my biological child from a previous relationship, ages 11, 9, and 8. My sister is pregnant. She can't look after the baby. So she asked us to adopt her child as it would be a short and uncomplicated process for us, as we already know what we're doing both in terms of adoption and babies. And, as we are approved adoptive parents who still foster from time to time, it would be simple enough to take in an extra child. However, I am concerned at my sister's behavior. She's already referring to the child as her baby, which is fair enough as the baby is growing inside of her, but it makes me worry that she won't be able to detach herself from the child. Additionally, I'm concerned that I will unwittingly become a glorified babysitter until she decides she wants to take the child back, as she has said that while she wants this baby, she's not ready yet. I have friends who have adopted relatives' children, and it becomes a mess of various boundary-related issues. Example, the bio parent telling the kid to call them mom/dad. While my kids have said they'd be okay with it, and my husband has also said so, the final concern is that if she changes her mind later and tries to take the child back, or even just trample some boundaries related to the child that will disrupt our home and upset all my kids, as the kids I have now need a stable family dynamic due to their history. When I communicated these worries to my sister, she said she might have some lingering maternal instincts because this would still be her biological child, but she feels this shouldn't be enough to talk me out of it. Both of our parents are only children, so we have no cousins/aunts/uncles who could take the baby, and while we do have 2 other siblings, neither of them is able to take the baby. She is about 6 weeks away from her due date. So, if I hold firm on refusing, she needs to start talking to adoptive parents ASAP. She's admitted that the reason she wants me to take the baby is that I am closer, and she'll be able to see her child in a way that she couldn't if the child were adopted by strangers, but insists that she can maintain any boundaries I put in place despite it still being her kid. Added to add, she also thinks we'd be a good family to adopt the child, as we're set up for another kid right now due to our fostering. We even have baby stuff in the attic and a 7-seater car, and have discussed adopting more children in the future, though we talked about doing it when the children we have right now are older. So, the inclusion of a baby wouldn't be highly disruptive to us, and my husband and I would really love having a baby in the house, and actually debated adopting a baby. I've refused, as I just don't think this is a good idea, and this has led to my sister, siblings, parents, and grandparents calling me an a-hole, saying I need to help my family and that they can't believe I would allow this baby to be surrendered to the system. And I do feel really bad, as I don't want my niece/nephew to be sent to live with strangers. I would like to be involved in their life, and I've not even given it a chance. Well, I won't be making any choices based off a poll of random people on the internet. No offense. I am wondering if anyone could provide me a different perspective. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. It sounds like she wants you to do all the hard work of actually being a parent, and she can just show up for the good bits when she feels like it. Not the a-hole. Your concerns are very valid based on her attitude and things said. Nailed it. Info. How old is your sister? Where is the father? Could he cause problems? What are the reasons your sister can't look after the baby? It very much sounds like she plans to let you do all the hard work, and then when the baby's 5/6, she'll be ready with no concern to you. Could you help the sister in other ways? If money's the issue, could she stay in your spare room for 6 months to save? If it's time, could you and another family member babysit for a few hours each day? Like you do 3 hours and someone else does 3 hours until the baby is old enough for childcare? Why are you the A for letting the kid go into foster care, but your sister isn't for not wanting to sort them a loving family because she still wants some connection? There's so many other options that can be considered that everyone jumping straight to you taking the baby makes your sister's plan pretty clear. And where are your parents in all this? Why can't they look after the child for 2 to 3 years until your sister is ready? She's 31, 2 years older than me. Boyfriend broke up with her recently, in the ballpark of 6 to 8 weeks ago, after saying he wanted to have this baby with her, but he's now saying he won't be involved at all unless she adopts the baby out. In which case, he'll sign whatever he needs to sign for the adoption to go through, and that's going to be the extent of his involvement. Sister has no financial issues. Her issue is that without the boyfriend involved, she will be a single mother, which she says she cannot do, due to the mental/emotional toll she can see motherhood taking on her, and not being ready for that progression. Not the a-hole. She can try an open adoption if she really wants to see her baby, but you shouldn't take in a child if you have so many reservations. Even with open adoptions, the birth parent doesn't get to see the child whenever they want. It's normal only a number of visits throughout the year, which is the reason the sister doesn't want another couple because she won't have free access to the child. Not the a-hole. I really feel for your soon-to-be nephew/niece. Is it possible for any of your other siblings to adopt? Or your parents or grandparents? I mean, they can't necessarily call you out if they're not willing to put up. The only way I see you adopting working is if she surrenders all of her rights to you, and she respects any boundaries you make. Sibling 1 is child-free and has a lifestyle that wouldn't allow him to include a child into it, and sibling 2 has 3 kids who are under 4 years old and a 6-year-old. Our parents are in their 50s and planning on retiring soon, and grandparents are in their late 80s, so they don't have the sheer energy required to have a baby. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to have any contact with my late husband's affair child? This is a long story, so buckle up. 7 years ago, my husband passed away. A few months after he passed away, a 15-year-old teenager came to my house. She revealed that she was his daughter. His name isn't in her birth certificate, but he really stepped up after he found out that her mom died when she was 10. She went to live with her grandmother, and my husband paid her grandmother each month to help with the expenses. After my husband died, the payments stopped and her grandmother threw her out. After being homeless for a couple of weeks, she came to my house. This was a pretty big shock to me, and I cannot stress how much I didn't want this person in my house. At the same time, I couldn't leave a child homeless. So I told her that I would help her and give her a place to stay. I also warned her that I only want to help her out, and that I am not taking any maternal role and she shouldn't expect me to. She agreed. She stayed at my house from the years of 15 to 18. My kid had already gone off to college, and I didn't mind. I never acted on the resentment I felt, but at the same time, I refused to do anything that could be considered parent-like. I pretty much only provided her with food and gave her a place to stay. That's it. She left when she was 18. I didn't have any contact with her after she left. She's now 20, and she contacted me recently. She wanted to connect, and she told me that I am the only mother figure she has. She wanted to bond with me, and she wanted me to consider her a daughter to me. After some contemplation, I reminded her that it wasn't a role I was willing to take, and that it was something I warned her about very early on. I helped her because she needed it, not because I loved her. She cried and told me that it wasn't fair and I wasn't giving her a chance. The thing is, I don't think I have to. I have tried refusing politely, but she keeps pushing this, and I am about to block her everywhere. My kid, who has always refused to even talk to the girl, thinks I am right. My friends are divided on this issue. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. No a-holes here, except for your late husband. He really did drop something on you. My ex has a love child of his own. I'll say for legal reasons, allegedly. If I were in your shoes, I would have made the same choices. I wouldn't have bonded with my husband's love child, but I wouldn't have left her on the streets. I can understand her hurt, but if you can't find it in you to want to bond with her, then why force it? Would she have to force a bond with you if you wanted it and she didn't want to? Given the amount of posts on Reddit lately from people telling their partners' affair children to pound sand, I really have to commend Opie for stepping up. She didn't have to, but she put her own feelings aside for the sake of the kid, and I really respect that. No a-holes here. You are not her mother. Although, I do want to point out that it wasn't realistic of you to expect a 15-year-old orphan not to get emotionally attached to you when you were the only family she had left, and you chose to open your home to her. You could consider taking on the role of an aunt or an older friend. There is a middle ground between being her mother and going no contact, and she isn't at fault here either. I think that's asking for too much. What Opie did is even more than what a lot of people would have accepted, especially when the husband was already dead. She did her fair share. No a-holes here. She's been dealt a tough hand, but you're not responsible for her. You already did a lot to help her out. Agree, no a-holes here, but I feel worst for the girl. Husband was the a-hole, not her. She didn't ask for this, and she seems to have no one. Her sibling and the closest thing to a maternal figure she has resent her for existing. Very sad. I can't imagine what that feels like. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.